Ba-ba-da, do. Hello and welcome to another live English lesson here on the AM Language YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's lesson, we are looking at owning the question. This is more to do with the technique. And this technique is to do with when you are asked a question, and it doesn't matter what situation actually. It could be an exam English question, it could be ielts, it could be a business English question. The technique remains the same, and that is owning the question. And when you own the question, it's about taking control of the question, no matter uh, the word is vague the question is. When I talk about vague, it means that the question, the direction of the question, or the answer you should give is not always clear. So that is what I mean by owning the question. Well, that's what we mean actually when we talk about owning the question, taking control. I hope everyone is doing well. It is a Tuesday afternoon. Um, and as a result, where are we now? I think this is the 9th of March already. So time is going by very quickly at the moment. Um, Depending on where you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day. Where I am, the weather isn't great. I know in Malta today it's a little bit cold to an extent. Arena F, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. Thank you for joining. I hope you are doing well. Privyet. As always, thank you for joining. Don't forget, by the way, guys, we have a new video up in terms of our short videos. Yesterday was Past Simple Part 1. This is part of our short video series that we're doing. And over a period of time, we will build up a library of short videos that you guys will be able to look at whenever you wish. At the moment, they are grammar centered, but over time, they will be able to develop that side of things a little bit more. As for the channel itself, a big thank you, by the way. We recently passed the 700 mark, and I'm hoping to see that 700 mark continues to grow towards the 800 mark soon. The big number really is 1,000. Getting to 1,000 subscribers will be a big moment for the channel. So hopefully we can get that. We can get to 1,000 in some. Well, I don't know. I think could we get there by the summer? Maybe. I suppose. I think maybe I should keep my head down. I just realized because of the camera angle. Yeah, I hope that we can get there by the summer. While we're waiting for more people to join, just to remind you guys this week in terms of what we are looking at. Noella, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. I just want to remind you guys in terms of what we're doing this week on this channel. Yesterday, if you guys remembered, we looked at reporting verbs part 2. Today, we are looking at own the question or owning the question. Wednesday, expressing opinions. That's tomorrow. Really important. A very good lesson coming up there. And then Thursday, we've got clarification, making things clear. That is always important. Friday, though, this week, there won't be a lesson. So I'm going to begin by saying I'm just going to give you an example of a question of what we're going to look at. And the technique that we oh dear. Okay, no, that this might not work. My chair isn't the best chair at the moment. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, Sandra. Good afternoon, guten Tag, and welcome to today's lesson. So, in terms of owning the question, I'm going to go in here with a question and I'm going to explain what we can do. Okay, so the question um, is okay. Okay, so this is an example question. Now, it is leaning slightly towards exam English, but we are going to be able to we're going to look at different scenarios. We'll look at IELTS, we'll look at other types of like the level tests. I should warn you, by the way, guys, the level test questions are very at AM language are heavily influenced by IELTS. And business questions as well. So we're going to try and cover a good range. So take a look at this question here. Crime is continuously rising. Why might this be? This is the sort of question you might get. Okay. Now there's some problems. It's the first thing is this question is assuming that crime is on the rise, but it doesn't but it doesn't provide any examples. Okay, doesn't provide any examples. So it's an assuming question. What does this mean? Well, it means that in order to answer this question, we need to try and think of three types of crime today that we can safely assume that they might be on the rise. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Can you think of three types of crime, three types of crime that might be on the rise? Okay, so over to you guys. Can you guys think of three types of crime that might be on the rise? Here we're looking for what you would call an educational guess. Okay, that's what we're looking for here, an educational guess. We don't have any information. We don't have any information with us. We've been asked this question. How can we answer the question? So we're going to go with the rule of three. You can sometimes change between 2 and 4, but I like the rule of three. So can you guys think of three types of crime that might be on the rise? We're going with something called an educational guess, whereby we're thinking of what we think would be the most realistic type of crimes that could be on the rise. The technique we do for this question, we're going to do for other types of questions. At the moment, it's general. This is quite a very general question. It's a sort of question you might get maybe on the level test or in IELTS, for example. Any of you doing IELTS will know that IELTS love to ask general questions. And the technique that we can use when answering this question, when speaking, is going to be the same technique or very similar technique that we can apply when writing as well. So can you guys, how many of you can think of three types of crime that might be on the rise? If you're struggling to think, I'm going to give you some examples over here. Maybe, let's say, um, maybe, for example, fraud, stealing money online, for example. That's always a possible, that's always a possibility. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be on the rise necessarily, but that's just one. I think that bribery and smuggle is on there. Okay, yeah, let's go with that. Maybe bribery, smuggling, absolutely. So you've provided us with two examples there. We've got fraud as well. Well, I suppose all of that can also come under banking fraud or something like that. Um, or oh, what's the other one actually that has just occurred to me? Data theft. This is people stealing your people's data. So maybe things like their ID, their bank account details, all of that sort of thing. Anyway, we now have at least three. So how do we go about answering this question? Well, if it is spoken, what we can do is we can go in with cybercrime. Yep, absolutely, definitely cybercrime. That would make sense. Okay, so we've got a good number of examples here. Now, I'm going to first tell you what you can do when it comes to speaking, and then I will tell you how you can write this as well. So when it comes to speaking, you can say something like, okay, uh, here we go. Ooh, what did you say? There we go. Yeah. Cybercrime. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, cybercrime could very. I think cybercrime is a good educational guess. Um, but we just need to be careful of the spelling. That's all. Okay, and this is the first thing that you would do. So if you're speaking and you want to own the question, this is what you do. You give three examples. Someone has asked you a very general question, and you need to own the question. Speaking wise, you can keep things as you. This isn't necessarily how you would answer it if you are writing it academically. But if you're going to speak, you need to just give three examples. So someone has asked you a very general question, you go in with three examples, and you can say there are many types of crime, but I would imagine this is important, okay? I would imagine this is a really useful phrase because what you're saying here is this is showing your educational guess that you're telling the person that this is your educational guess. Okay, so I would imagine the types of crime that would be on the rise are the likes of cybercrime, smuggling, and data theft. That way, you have owned the question. And the important phrase here is I would imagine. This is showing your educational guess. Okay, now what happens when it comes to writing? So, what happens when it comes to writing? Well, we've got this option here. Crime takes on various forms. Now, various forms here you're what you're doing here is you are acknowledging that the question is general. Okay, so copy. What are we doing with this? We are acknowledging. Okay, so acknowledging. So this sentence here, this phrase, crime takes on various forms. Here you're acknowledging the question is general too, but currently it would be reasonable to assume this is a really important one, okay? So when it comes to writing, okay, this again is your educational uh, guess, okay? It would be reasonable to assume. What you're saying here is no, sorry, let me write that again. When you say it would be reasonable to assume, you are showing that this is your educational guess, okay? Um, Now, assume can change. It can be reasonable. It would be reasonable to consider, think, believe. Okay, it's all about trying to show that this is the educational way to think about something, and then you own the question by giving three examples. Okay, so you then own the question by giving three educational examples, and that is what we need to do. So let's just check before we go on. Can you answer the following questions? You need to give me some examples. So let's begin. Can you give me a phrase that one, the question is general. Two, that educational guess. Okay, let's see what you guys come out with. So, can you guys now give me the phrases, well, the expressions that we can use to one show to that acknowledges the question is general, for example, or that the or to present your educational guess. So we've had a little look. What do you guys think? At this stage, you don't need to just stick to writing or speaking. You can just tell me what you think. So if you look back through the live chat section, you will see some of these answers. And then we'll move on to another question where you guys need to now try and then show me your response. So like I said, guys, we're looking at this situation here. We're trying to own the question. You've been asked a general question and you need to take ownership. You need to control where this conversation is going. So after this, we will then have some examples of questions where you guys are going to have to try and take ownership. Remember the rule of three. So Noella says, for number one, there are several types of crime. Yep, that's a good way of going in as well. I'll accept that. Well done, Noella. I'll give people just a little bit more time if they want to come in with any other answers. If not, we'll then move on to the next one. But it's important to acknowledge the type of question you've been asked. It's the same as if you've been asked a specific question. It helps. It's a good idea to show that you have acknowledged the type of question that you have been asked. So what about two? Present your educational guess. We've looked at a couple of our possible answers to this already. Let's see what you guys come out with. Okay. We will then, after this, we'll then move away from crime and we'll look at another question. But I'm going to give you some options so you can choose the one that you find most interesting. And we'll also see how this can be applied to not just IELTS, not just general English, but also business English, professional work English. Because it's often that you're going to be asked general questions. And it's important that we know how to go about trying to answer those questions, um, showing that we can think about it as well. Okay, so I'll give you guys just 10 more seconds, and then I'll let you guys know what the answers are for the others. Okay. Right, how we're doing. Yeah, we're good for time at the moment, and then we'll move on. So I'm going to count down here. 20 more seconds to go, and then I'll let you guys know what the answer is for the second one. So we've got a good answer here from Noelia. There are several types of crime. That's a good start. It's always a good way to go in and own the question. So I'll tell you what the answers are. Okay. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to give you two possible answers. One, my actual answer, crime takes on various forms, and I've given you Noella's. There are several types of crime, because that was a good answer. For number two, you've got the following. Nowadays, cybercrime and data theft are among the most common ones. Now, I like that nowadays. I like that use of nowadays, and that's a good way to go into to own the question. So well done, Noella. I'm happy with that. I'm going to include that as an actual answer because I think it's a good one. So you've got nowadays. You've got it would be reasonable to assume, and you've also got something like it would be sorry, no, I would imagine. Okay, well done, guys. So let's move on to the next question. We've now looked at that. Let's see what you guys can do with this one here. So the question here is going to be, so there are many forms of travel, but which are likely to be the most popular? So what I would like you to do here is one, I want you to write a paragraph here, your full answer, but one, you must acknowledge the type question. Is it general or specific? Okay, very important. And number two, we've got present three possible answers. And for this one, just as a number three, okay, think about your tense, okay? Does this need to be past, present, conditional, etc. So think about your tense and think about your grammar structure. It's going to make a difference on this one. What do you guys think? So you've got this question. There are many forms of travel, but which are likely to be the most popular after COVID-19? So let's see what you guys are going to go with. I mean, look, I think this is a generally a good question to think about. There are many forms of travel, but which are likely to be the most popular after COVID-19? So let me know, acknowledge the type of question. Is this general or specific? with an actual phrase, such as above. 2, present. 3, possible answers. And 3, think about your tense. Does this need to be past, present? Actually, that probably should be think about your conditional, sorry, your grammar side of things as well. I think it's important that when you look at a question like this, if I were to give you 3 possible examples of travel after COVID that might be popular, let's see. I don't know about business travel. I don't know about business travel anymore. It's very easy now. People have now spent a year on Zoom, giving just dealing with meetings. So I'm not so sure that business travel is going to be really popular after COVID. I think city breaks might be popular. I think city breaks might be popular within Europe. As soon as Europe opens up again, I can imagine plenty of people looking to go to different parts of Europe again. I think there will be what we would call a boom actually in the travel industry after COVID. I think people will be looking to go abroad as soon as it's possible. In fact, I can't imagine why people wouldn't. People have been stuck at home. Most people have been stuck in the same location. People haven't really been able to take holidays. I suspect there might be a big travel, a big boom. What we would call, yes, a big boom, which if we use the word boom means increase in sales, for example. We could also say there might be a loop. Can I think of any others? Another way to describe this. Yeah, a lucrative. That's it. I think another way of describing it, there might be a lucrative fall, meaning very profitable period of time slash moment. So there might be a lucrative fall, meaning a very profitable period of time and a moment. Um, but which areas? Well, I think city break might be one. I think traveling to other continents. I think if you're if you're in South America, you might be very tempted to travel to Europe, and likewise, I think if you're in Europe, you might be very tempted to travel to the Americas or Asia. Noella says travel takes on several forms. Excellent, great start. However, I would imagine that after COVID-19, the most popular will be traveling abroad to some kind of paradise spot. Okay, I think what you've done there is you've started the process of owning the question, Noelia. So really well done. If I was to make any changes, I would say, however, I would imagine that after COVID-19, you don't need a comma after COVID-19. The most popular here type of travel would be, this is going to be, yeah, most popular, uh, here, this is what you need to do, Noella. We just need to the most popular type of travel will be. That's what you needed there. The most popular type of, and then you need to reintroduce your subject, which is travel. But really well done. That is a good sentence. Okay, well done. Now let's look at the next one. Now the question is going to be about yourself. How do we own the question when it comes to talking about ourselves? So let's say the question is, well, you're being interviewed. It's not necessarily about yourself, but they're asking you, what do you think? So imagine the question is something like, let's say this. Now this could be now this could be for any type of situation. You're having a general conversation with someone, and this time they've given you the option. They've given you two to either go positive or negative. Do you believe social media has more benefits than negative effects? What do you think the correct response here is to own the question? Do you give two benefits? So option one, okay, do you give two benefits? Option two, do you give two benefits and two negatives? Or three, do you give two negatives? Which one do you think you should go with if you want to own the question? Do you believe social media has more benefits than negative effects? Really important that you think about this one, because sometimes it's asking you to compare two things. So if it's asking you to compare two things, now again, this could be a verbal question, spoken question, or this could be a written question. Either way, we need to think of how we're going to own the question, take control. And it's a technique that we use when you also want to be in charge of the conversation. You are going to decide the direction of where this conversation is going. This works in general English. This works in business English. This also works in ielts. This particularly will work in part two of the written task or part three of the speaking task in ielts. So have a little think about this. Which one do you think is going to be the most appropriate? And then let me know. Is it one, two, or three? And if you like, you can actually give me your answer. So if you want to jump ahead here, you can. Do you believe social media has more benefits than negative effects? Which one do you believe? And if you already know what your examples would be, let me know. If I'm thinking of benefits, I think the obvious benefits is to do with networking, um, and easier to communicate with people, even if you don't know them. I can think of lots of negatives. I think it might depend what sort of social media you're on. These days, I'm not a fan of Facebook. If I'm being totally honest, I don't go on Facebook very often anymore. Um, Instagram is okay because it's just you just see what you want to follow. As a result, I never follow any news on Instagram. I think that's the most unhealthy. I think that would be the unhealthiest thing on Instagram. I think it's following the news. I think that is a recipe for unhappiness, following the news on social media, because then you look at the comment section, and the comment section is always what we would call very toxic. So what do you guys think? Which one is the correct option? One, two, or three? I'll give you guys just under a minute, and then I'll let you know which one to go with. And then I'll finish off with a job interview style question: how to deal with this if you're asked a general question in a job interview. Again, it's all about making sure that you own the question. So I'll give you guys another 20 seconds on this one, and then I'll let you know what the answer is. Don't forget tomorrow, guys. And I do encourage you to join me tomorrow. There aren't many people watching today, unfortunately. But just to remind you, tomorrow we are going to have a lesson that is going to be, well, I think it will be very beneficial because it's a hard thing to do. One moment, find can I find it though? There we go. So tomorrow it's expressing opinions. This is really important, and I do advise you guys to watch tomorrow how to express your opinions properly in English. That is important. Now, Alice says social media has both negative and positive effects. Concerning the positive ones, I would imagine that it can link people and improve the social connections. Very good. I think that's an excellent reply. Clearly, you're going with at the moment. If you have a second bit to that, Noella, then that definitely confirms that you're going with number two. It looks like you're going for number two. Um, just one thing, and improve social connections. You don't need that because it's not going to be specific. Just improve social connections. You got the plural s at the end over there, so you don't need the article there. Okay. Right, let's finish off. If you want to say more on that one, Noella, you're welcome to do so. I can think of plenty of negatives, though. I don't think it's healthy, really. Anyway, let's go on. This time, I'm going to give you a question that you might be asked in a job interview. Let's see how you own the question. Noella says, regarding the negative effects, it would the reasonable assume that people could be addicted to social media. Okay, really well done there, Noella. Just going to highlight one thing, okay? It would to assume. Okay, good start. Which one do you think is the correct way of phrasing this? Okay, you've got your one over here. We've got this one, or option C. A, B, or C, Noella? A, B, or C? Which one would be the correct one? Because everything else there is good, but which turn of phrase is the correct one? It would the reasonable assume, B, it would the reasonable to assume, or C, it would be reasonable to assume. Which one do you think is going to make the most sense when you look at this? Correct, Noella. It's going to be C. So let's finish off with this last question. Well done, Sandra. Excellent. Now, I'm going to finish off with a business English question, actually. What does success look like to you? It's a really general question. What I would like you guys to do here is think of what we looked at in this lesson. How would you reply? Remember the rule of three. What does success look like to you? It's a really general question. I'm going to give you my answers, but then please give me yours, okay? Because it's not unusual that you're asked really general questions, and it sometimes can be a little bit confusing because it's like, oh, you've given me nothing here, but this is where you need to own the question. So, what does success look like to you? So here's something really general. Feel free to take this down. You can copy it. But if you're ever asked, what does success look like to you? Feel free to give me your answers. I would go in with an answer like this. So, success can take on various forms depending on the aims and objectives of the people involved and the company's goals. Here, various forms, very important. That just means different. Depending on, notice, depending on is the preposition of depending. I would say the three things define success relate to that define success. Sorry, I'm going to just rewrite that little bit there. I noticed there's a typo. This should be three. I would say the three things that define success relate to, and then I've given the rule of three examples: achieving the targets set, achieving the targets within the time frame, and having developed good relations between us and our clients. Relations is really important. That's to do with your relationships. Um, Really important that we get that one right. Okay, relations. That's to do with your relationship with your clients or your customers. Okay. Noella has said success takes on several forms. Nice way to go in. For me, it is important to consider the family part together with the professional one. Okay, you've given us two examples there, and that shows that you started to own the question. Nicely done. Irina F says to me, success means achieving a challenging goal. Okay. So what I would say here, guys, is very well done. Both of you attempted to begin to own the question. I would always encourage you that to really own a question, try and aim for at least three examples. That helps to own the question a bit more. Two, you can just about do with two. One is difficult. It's usually not going to be enough. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining me today, where we've looked at owning the question, and it's a really important technique to do. And all it is, make sure you try and stick to the rule of three. When you have been asked a general question, give three examples, and usually that will allow you to take control of the conversation and of the question, whether you're writing or speaking. Thank you so much for joining. Irina F, thank you very much as always for joining. And Noelia, you too. Thank you for joining and thank you for your participation in today's lesson. Sandra, you too. Thank you very much for joining and for your participation as well. You're welcome, Irina F. Thanks. Take care. See you tomorrow. You too, Noella. Thank you very much. And you as well, Sandra. And anyone else and everyone else who's been watching. As always, make sure you like and share the video. And if you want to follow us, make sure you follow the lessons in the live chat section. Thank you very much, Sandra. You too. So, guys, that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock, with another live English lesson. And yes, great. See you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye for now.